So in our 9-5 video when we looked at completing the square, but when we were doing those, we never had an a value. So, well, technically the a value was 1. So what happens when the a value isn't 1? What do? It's actually quite simple. So looking at this first example, all I would have to do to get rid of that a value is I would actually just divide everything by the a value. And so that would leave me with x squared, because that 2 just cancels. 8 divided by -2 is -4. 18 divided by -2 is +9, is all equal to 0. And so now I'm actually just at that spot where I left off in the other video, where now I can go ahead and complete the square. So I would go ahead and subtract 9 to both sides, and I would get x squared minus 4x, and I'll put plus c is equal to -9. Now I need to take my b value of -4, we'll cut it in half to get -2. We'll square it, and that gives me 4. So now I have the equation x squared minus 4x plus 4 is equal to -9. Then I can go ahead and factor to x minus 2 squared is equal to -9. Now, and you'll know it's -2 because here it needs to add up to -4. So that's why I know it's x minus 2. So then I would naturally go ahead and square root both sides, right? And so square root, x minus 2 is left on the left-hand side. Now, I love this problem because, I'm going to start in red, because you cannot take the square root of a negative number. It's impossible. And the reason why it's impossible is because there's no number multiplied by itself that'll give you a negative outcome, okay? And so we would say that this is a no solution. So then looking at the next example, I'm going to go ahead and change my color. So H, let me just go ahead and make a little border here. So again, I need to get rid of the a value. So all I have to do is just divide everything by 3. So that gets rid of the a value, and so I get x squared minus 4x minus 1 is equal to 7. Perfect. Now all I have to do is get rid of the c value that they're giving me because I don't like it. It's not a perfect square. Well, technically it is, but it doesn't make a perfect square trinomial. So then I get x squared minus 4x. I'll put in a c value since I got rid of it is equal to now 8. And we just did this. We did, -4 divided by 2 squared. That gives me a c value that I want of 4. And so remember, I have to also add it to the right side to keep a balanced equation, which now equals 12. So now I'll factor this on the left-hand side to make it x. Ooh, I just realized I made a little mistake. Try to do this without erasing the whole problem here. I didn't mean to put plus, it should be minus. So I now have x minus 2 squared is equal to 12. And I'll square root both sides, and I get x minus 2 is equal to positive or negative. Now, okay, 12 is a radical that I can simplify. Root 4, root 3, right? So that gives me really positive or negative 2 root 3. I'll change back over to my pink here. And then I'll add 2 to both sides. And I get x is equal to positive or negative 2 root 3 plus 2. That whole thing is my answer. So why don't you guys go ahead and try numbers 5, 6, and 7 on your own. So for number 5, you're going to start by dividing everything by 2. And so that gives me, let's see, x squared minus x, let's see, plus 3.5, oops, is equal to 2.5. Then I want to go ahead and get rid of the c value that they give me by subtracting 3.5 to both sides, and I get x squared minus 1x, and then plus the c value is equal to, now this worked out nicely, and I get -1. And then to complete the square over on the left, I would say, okay, -1, if I split it in half, that gives me -0.5. And then I will go ahead. So then I'll go ahead and I'll square this, and I get -0.25. So that'll be my c value that I'm going to add to both sides. So I get x squared minus x. So I just realized I put negative 2.5. So that actually should be positive. I apologize. So I'll put plus 0.25. And I'm going to add it to the other side as well. So that's going to give me negative 0.75. And then I'll go ahead and factor the left side. So that would give me x minus 0.5 squared. Okay? Because if you were to square root 0.25, that gives you 0.5. And if I add negative 0.5 to itself, so negative 0.5 plus negative 0.5, it does give you 1. And it equals negative 0.75. And so maybe at this point, though, you realize, hey, I'm going to have to square root both sides, right? And I can't square root a negative. So I did all this work just to see that there is no solution. So then number 6, I would start with dividing everything by 3 to get rid of that a value. So I get x squared plus 4x plus, let's see, 81 divided by 3 is 27 is equal to 5. Now I'll go ahead and get rid of my c value, so I'll subtract that to both sides. I get x squared plus 4x plus, we don't know the c value just yet, is equal to negative 22. And then I'll go ahead and find the b value, or not the b value, the c value. So I'll take 4, divide it in half, which gives me 2. Square it gives me 4. So what I need to do is add 4 to both sides. So I get x squared plus 4x plus 4 is equal to negative 18. But I don't need to keep going because what my equation equals is a negative. I can't square root that because I would eventually after factoring. So I'm going to go ahead and just say no solution. I don't need to keep going. And then finally, number 7, we're going to start by dividing everything by 4. So that leaves me with x squared plus 2x plus 5 is equal to 9. No, not 9. What am I saying? Silly. 14. So then I'll go ahead and subtract 5 to both sides. And I get x squared plus 2x plus my unknown c value is equal to 9. So then I'm going to find that b value by taking my 2, and sorry, I'm kind of like running into the other problem here. So I'll take the b value of 2, divide it in half, that gives me 1, square it, my c value that I want to add to both sides is 1. So I've got x squared plus 2x plus 1, I have to also add it to the 9, so it equals 10. So then I will go ahead and factor, so I get x plus 1 squared is equal to 10. Because I want to say what are factors of 1 that add to 2, and that's going to be 1. And then I'll go ahead and square root both sides. So I get x plus 1 is equal to positive or negative root 10. I cannot simplify that. And then I'll just subtract 1 to both sides, and I get x is equal to positive or negative the square root of 10 minus 1.